Jump on. Sorry. What up? Shit. What's going on, Willie P?
It's embarrassing the Clemson head football coach.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Who's Vinny an homage to? Is that who is Vinny?
Homage?
Yeah.
I'm feeling. Where are you from? Do you know we're in South Carolina? What is an homage? I don't know what that means.
How do you spell that?
Feeling lugubrious today. What was that other word you had? Lament. Yeah. Homage. Could you start bringing a thesaurus in here, Ross? Homage.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to your vocabulary lesson of the night.
Stop it.
Here on Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, a Talking Tuesday, as we hear one more time from the head coaches. Will Muschamp at USC did not have to deal with any tough words, but he had some tough words for the SEC office. Make my quarterback SEC Player of the Week. Thank you very much. As they chose, of course, to go with the quarterbacks. They had co-offensive players of the week, the quarterbacks from Alabama and Vanderbilt. And Dabo Swinney getting his team ready for the ACC championship game. He was named the ACC Coach of the Year today for the second time. Trevor Lawrence was named the ACC's Offensive and overall Rookie of the Year today. So the awards roll out for the Tigers. The Offensive and Defensive Players of the Year will be announced tomorrow. And Dabo had some more words to say about his words of Sunday. Going to bring all that to you tonight here on a Talking Tuesday. Just got the word on USC basketball player Justin Minaya, who will have right knee surgery this week, begin rehab immediately. So they hope to get him back in January. Frank Martin said last night after the loss to Wofford, they had two options. One would sit him down for the rest of the season. One would allow him to potentially return in January. They chose the latter, and he will try and get back for the Gamecocks. They need him badly.
Tendon or what? Or
it's in his knee.
I think that sounds like meniscus to me.
Well,
Okay.
It doesn't say. Martin said last night it's a similar injury to what Frink had that has had him out of action, though he was activated for last night's game. He did not play in the loss to Wofford. Our phone number, 800-956-7266. That's how you can reach us. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. So I was at USC today, and the biggest part of the news side of it was A.J. Turner is going to play defense. They're going to work him out, prepare him to play the nickelback spot. This is something that he is on board with, according to Muschamp. Muschamp said for 3 years Turner has bugged him about playing some on defense. He does play on special teams, and so they see the skills there. And with the running back situation the way it is, with Mon Denson emerging, Rico Dowdle's back healthy and playing, and they expect Tyson Williams to be able to play this coming Saturday against Akron. They have room to move him. Though, me personally, I thought A.J. Turner was the best running back that they had in terms of his speed and his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
But they like the other guys, and so he's going to get a chance to play over on the defensive side. Outside of that, that was the only injury-related thing that Muschamp brought up today. He said that J.J. Inabar will be back for this week's game. In fact, will play more of a defensive end for them this week against Akron. And he said that they enjoy practicing this week and get used to it. His plan is for the Gamecocks to be practicing the last week of November, getting ready for the SEC championship game in Atlanta in the future.
Going on a field trip? Is that how?
Well, they expect to be playing.
Oh, that's fun.
It can happen. Happened in 2010.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice hope.
It's going to happen. It'll happen for them.
It's pie in the sky.
Sooner than later.
Nice.
Well, it's not pie in the sky.
It's a nice thing. It's a nice
you,
thought.
you take 5 plays in this season, they'd have 1 loss.
Yeah, they're getting there. They are slowly building.
Everybody's
Looking
fine.
forward to Helinski being in the program starting next year. That's going to further elevate the quarterback position.
I'm not supposed to be.
Get a few more good defensive linemen, which are hard to find, and continue to add some quality offensive linemen to the young group they have. Yeah, I think they're on the way.
Clemson just scored again.
And now, of course, next year they got to deal with that unbelievable schedule.
Yeah.
next year.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You think you're going to play that next year? You're going to play Alabama. You're going to play Georgia. North Carolina with Mac Brown. They'll be hyped up there in Charlotte. Be fun.
Not going to have any players.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Whatever.
And they got to play Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Florida, at Texas A&M, at Missouri with Kelly Bryant,
Kentucky, who
they can't beat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You think Kelly Bryant's going to Missouri?
I don't know. I mean, the more and more I hear about the angst at Auburn, you wonder whether or not the deck is kind of stacked clean, because I don't think he's going to go to North Carolina with Mac Brown. I don't think he's going to go to Miami, obviously, because he canceled his visit there. Auburn seems like a non-starter, and why would you even touch Arkansas at this point? Because it doesn't seem like things are going to be better there. Of all the places he visited, Missouri seems like I wouldn't say most attractive option, but the most reasonable option, I would say.
I would think Auburn.
Something else that Muschamp said today is they will play Ernest Jones on Saturday. That will be his fourth game. Then they're going to sit down with him and talk about, do you want to play in the bowl game and burn your redshirt year?
Mm-hmm.
Josh Belk has played in 4 games. I think they'll continue to play him moving forward. I think that's the plan with him. J.C. Horn was in a boot today. He does expect him to be able to play on Saturday. Of course, with Muschamp, he says things on Tuesday about injuries, and it turns out to be a lot worse when game time rolls around. What about up your way?
Nothing really doing. Of course, Dabo had the usual plaudits for the opponent with Pittsburgh. Basically, there's no extra motivation needed for this group to play Pittsburgh, basically because of the fact that, according to Dabo Swinney, and again, something that he mentioned, the fact that the senior group is the only team that they've lost to is Pittsburgh. And that was 2 years ago at Death Valley, at least the only team that they lost to in ACC play, that is. And so there's obviously no extra motivation for that, no extra motivation in the fact that they can win another ACC title, become the first team to win 4 consecutive ACC titles since the advent of the championship game. And as you mentioned, Corn, he kind of doubled down on a way, probably did it in a less harsh fashion than he did on Sunday in his teleconference, but once again, called out the complacency of some Clemson fans who were, I guess, unsatisfied with the margin of victory, or unsatisfied with the fact that they had such a poor defensive performance. And while concern is obviously something that is paramount, and I even dug deeper into kind of what Dabo Swinney had about his defense and how he felt about that and what they saw on film to try and, rectify some of the issues that were very glaring on Saturday. But the fact of the matter is, I just look at this from the standpoint of, looking at Clemson and looking at the way that they've responded off of these types of games. They responded well after the A&M game. They responded well after the Syracuse game. I think they'll respond well here again against Pittsburgh. Anyone else?
No.
I think they're going to win. I think they're going to cover.
No, I'm
26.5 points. I think they're going to cover.
I mean, it's weird because
Pittsburgh had 200 yards against Miami.
Exactly.
200. Now they can run the ball. They've shown through the season they can run the ball. And Miami had one of the best defenses in the country for a while. But 200 yards against Miami, they're not going to be able to run with Clemson's offense. Now, I'll tell you what you got to watch out for. Remember 2 years ago, I think it was, they lost to Pittsburgh? You know what beat them? The tight end.
Yes.
Tight end had a field day against him. They're looking at that tape.
That's what Alabama did for the first title.
The one thing that Dabo Swinney did say, and again, people were trying to draw the comparison to the situation at Boston College with all those tight ends. They don't have the tight ends as much as they used to there. They're more wide receiver oriented than they are tight end oriented, but it's very much a come at you style. They run the football. They play physical man coverage with their defense, and it should be interesting to see how that matchup plays against Clemson this weekend.
All right, 800-956-7266. Open for your phone calls. If you couldn't get through last night, you can get through tonight at this particular time. We will be letting you hear from the coaches. Dabo Swinney on Pittsburgh, Will Muschamp on Akron. Swinney clarifying his comments about the fans. Muschamp talking about the snub by the SEC related to Bentley. It was kind of a pretty good shot at the SEC where it just means more, as he said, especially when it comes to certain logos.
Did the 2 quarterbacks who were honored, did they won their football game?
They did win their game.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, but then again,
because you're big on the whole quarterback record thing.
What was
still 510 yards and 5 touchdowns against the top 5
team in the country has never been done in the SEC.
They win the
hard to sniff.
They win the game.
Yeah, they did win the game. Is that a prerequisite for being Player of the Week?
I'm not saying it is.
It must be.
Saying you always like to talk about. You always like to talk about the quarterback wins. I mean, that's a thing apparently.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Gamecock fans got to relax. I'm just messing. Come on. This is a sarcasm situation. And again, like you mentioned, the schedule next year for South Carolina is brutal. Brutal.
It is. But you know what? You have to rise up. You have to build up. You have to rise up. You look at South Carolina's team for next year, and if they can get lucky and get a few guys to come back, for example, Donnell Stanley, if he decides to come back for another year, which might bode him well. Now, it just depends. I mean, 6th year in college is a long time, and he might be ready to move on at his age. Javon Kinlaw, has a chance to move on if he comes back, which he should, because if he comes back, he's got a chance to be first-team All-SEC if he continues to improve. But you look at their defensive line next year. Let's say Kinlaw comes back. Josh Belk continues to trim down, get stronger, and improve.
Get that blood pressure down, too.
Yeah. Then you've got the other young guys now, Anabar, who's starting to play more and contribute in a big way. They've got some good young players on that defensive front. The young guys are having to play in the secondary. Yes, they're getting burned some now, but you learn from that. And I like the talent. I mean, Mukwamu's going to be an excellent corner with his size. Horn on the other side is going to give them 2 really good corners for the next couple of 3 years. Maybe Dickerson can get healthy and help him at safety. I think Roderick's going to be a very good safety for him back there. They got some good young players. Maybe they need to improve the linebacker spot with more depth there, a little more speed at linebacker, I think. But the schedule is going to be very tough next year, and they're going to have a good year and a chance to compete in their division and get to where they want to get to. They're going to have to be a much improved team.
And here's the
overall.
Thing. You lose Deebo Samuel next year, so that's a very, very big gaping hole in your offense. We saw what this offense looked like last year without him.
Right.
The offense made great progressions. I'm not saying they didn't. They probably made it. They've made as much of a progression as the defense has made a regression, and that's the part that concerns me. I know you can talk about the injuries, but it's not all about the injuries. Well, it's not all about the injuries.
They've got like 9 defensive contributors out. They got almost an entire defensive unit on the sideline, guys that would be playing and making plays. I think you got to cut them some slack when it comes to the overall play of the defense. What they got to figure out is, why are all these guys getting hurt?
Oh, I've already told you why. They don't get many 3 and outs. If you look at their time possession, South Carolina's defense is on the field longer than most SEC teams. And when do people usually get hurt? When they're worn out or tired. And that's the key. You got to get off the field.
All right, 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Of course, basketball last night, Clemson loses to Nebraska.
That was a dud.
USC loses to Wofford. Congratulations, Mike Young.
He's good for Wofford.
He's got a Tar Heel scalp. He's got a Gamecock scalp.
Tremendous coach, man. Wofford does not know, and I'll repeat this because I've said it before, they don't know how lucky they are. They have a tremendous coach.
You know what? That really should not be considered an upset. Wofford beating you is not an upset.
By 20.
They're good. They can shoot it. They won by 20 with their best player having an off night shooting. Boy, I tell you, the Gamecock inside game is just pitiful right now.
Gamecocks suck like a Hoover.
You like my headline?
I did. That was nice.
That was interesting.
Hoover sucks the life out of Gamecocks.
I will make one statement
South
about
Carolina
that
shoots
game.
it up, it's like shooting it into the Hoover Dam. No?
I will make one statement about that game.
What's that?
All of those players we know have played basketball for a while. And it just came into my head that when guys are shooting shots that look comfortable, that's hitting the front rim, somebody's been practicing too long. They don't have any legs. Hunter
Reed at Furman reminds us that Furman beat Loyola and Villanova half the Final Four.
I told you
from last year. They're 7-0. Yes, we're going to get the coach on with us.
We need to start talking about the fact that Furman might be the best basketball team in the state right now.
People aren't noticing. Citadel beat James Madison and South Florida last week. And they're having a good year.
College of Charleston beat Memphis.
A lot of good basketball being played out there. But I'm sorry, basketball guys.
Not in Columbia.
You don't get any love or any attention until
Wow.
maybe after this weekend.
So what you're telling me is the SoCon is trying to get more than one entry into the tournament?
Maybe they should.
Multi-bid league. For
Well,
the
they only got
SoCon.
one into the football. No, they got two into football. East Tennessee and
East Tennessee,
Wofford. Yeah. All right, 800-956-7266. Let's get to your phone calls. A couple of lines are open for you right now as we go to Barry in Fort Mill. You're up first tonight. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Thank you, Phil. I didn't get a chance to listen to most of the show last night because the show was preempted because of the basketball game.
Mhm.
But I just like to thank the Gamecocks for the performance that they made, the guts that they showed down there, especially the offensive line and the whole offense, putting up over 600 yards on Clemson. One thing that I don't know whether anything was ever mentioned about it or not, but in the calls that I heard, I don't think the second string quarterback for Clemson got to play, did he?
No. No.
Well, that's kind of to me that's really an insult and a slap in the face to that kid. I mean, he practices all the time. Well, as a matter of fact, if it wasn't for him, they probably wouldn't be in the position they're in right now, with him completing the 4th and 6th pass to help them pull out the game against Syracuse. But with a 21-point lead and 9 minutes left in the game, I mean, to me, that shows that kid just the ultimate disrespect. But I think the thing about it is, too, I got a lot of friends that are Clemson fans, and when we were on our 5-win streak, I didn't ride them or nothing like that. And a lot of them said, well, why are you not crowing and all this and all this? I said, look, man, I know how it is. I said, I've felt it.
It's a cyclical thing.
Years. And but anyway, I think that what Dabo did in that game, especially scoring that last touchdown and not letting that kid play, I know y'all disagree about it, but I think it was real bush league, and I'll listen to your comments.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, yes, I think that it was risky for Sweeney to leave his frontline guys in with a 3-touchdown lead. Now, South Carolina did come back and score, and I guess he felt like, well, if they're going to score, we're going to turn around and score.
They didn't put the they didn't take the foot off the accelerator.
No, and I think
playing.
now they did run in some of their backups on defense. Turner was in some. Denzel Johnson was in some. Of course, that's because I think the starters were playing so bad. Mm-hmm. They put some other guys in to see if they could close up the holes in that secondary. But on the offensive line and on the offense in general, they pretty much stayed with their frontline guys. You didn't see a lot of deep substitution at receiver. You didn't see Overton or Powell or Chase get in there. They stayed with the frontline guys. You did see the number 4 running back got in, Dixon, but he's as good as number 2. There's not much of a drop off, and he was not interested in. Listen, what does Muschamp like to say? All gas, no brakes. Well, I think that Sweeney took that to heart. He was not interested in taking his foot off the gas.
I mean, how much did the Clemson fans kind of get a little restless about the fact that they took all the starters out in the fourth quarter the last couple of years? They wanted blood. They wanted every last point on that scoreboard.
Again, I think, Gamecock fans, you just got to get over that. You're not going to be happy one way or the other. If they had started pulling the starters out for curtain calls like they did 2 years ago, you'd have been ticked off about that because you were ticked off 2 years ago. Now you're ticked off because they left the starters in. All I'm saying is
love to be aggrieved, Corn.
He did take it. It's a rivalry game, and cheap shots do happen. And if they could have gotten a shot on Trevor Lawrence late in that game, somebody was going to take it. You were risking the franchise there in a game you had already salted away because you were throwing on your last possession. It wasn't like Dabo's wrong when he says, well, we just turned and handed the ball off. They did on the touchdown run, but to get to that position, they threw 2 passes, one to get a first down and then another one as part of that drive to get him in position to run it in for the touchdown.
And, of course, the camera caught him waving the team up quickly to the line.
He was doing the hurry up. He was doing the rolling of the arms to say, get up to the line and keep going.
He didn't want to give the ball back. That's fine.
Only thing I say is own it. Bobby Bowden used to say, yeah, I'm running up the score. Say the same thing, Dabo.
Yeah. All right. Back with more of your calls here in a moment.
take the yellow.
It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It's funny, when I woke up yesterday morning and saw that Mac Brown was going to be the head coach of North Carolina, I wondered, Corn, what year was it?
Yeah, really. Now look, and he's
It's a time warp.
The landscape that he is walking into now is not the same landscape in college football in the ACC that he walked out of, because,
or even just at North Carolina.
well, he left as the king of the ACC.
And with
Remember, now they started out not very good.
1-10 his first 2 years.
Then he took off and had a great staff,
Mhm.
and he's going to try and put that staff back together. I wonder if we could hear some familiar names hooking up there.
Chiswick was the one that's basically.
I'm thinking of Brad Lawing, because I'm not 100% sure. I think Brad and Mac might have some history together, maybe because Mac was at Appalachian State, wasn't he?
The defense coordinator he had that took over? I can't remember his name. He was a great defense coordinator.
Yeah. He was a former Tar Heel, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Didn't go well
No.
for him after he left. So we'll see what happens. Listen, I'm not going to poo-poo an older guy getting a chance again. And look, at South Carolina, it worked for a while with Lou Holtz, and it worked very well with Steve Spurrier until the end.
He did serve under Mac Brown with Appalachian State in Brown's only season, and boom.
Yeah,
Well,
so
see, here's my theory.
keep an eye on that.
Yeah, as I said off the air, here's my theory. This is the entertainment business, correct? Okay. ESPN is launching the ACC network. I'm not so measured somebody put something in their ear. Mac Brown is interested. He works for us. He'd like to come back. That'd be great TV stuff. Mac Brown returning. Then he goes over to Louisville. Well, Brom says, no, I'm not going to Louisville. Then suddenly we see reports that he's meeting with Louisville, which tells me ESPN, just bring the guy in. We'll sweeten the pot for him once he gets there, because they want this conference to take off.
Well, the only thing that North Carolina football is good for is funding the basketball program.
Yeah. A couple of quick notes. The reactionists at Auburn, not the Auburn Tigers, the Auburn reactionists, lose to Alabama and things happen to your head coach. So, according to a report, Gus Malzahn is on the verge of accepting a reduced buyout and other limitations to keep his job. This is according to Auburn Undercover.
Is that an erotic blitz?
Oh no.
Erotic defense. His buyout would be reduced by an unspecified amount. I hear it's going to be cut to zero. I just made that up.
I'm kidding.
Any coaching staff moves would have to be revenue neutral, effectively removing the possibility of paying buyouts for assistant coaches and assuring Chip Lindsey would remain as offensive coordinator unless he chooses to leave.
If I'm Gus Malzahn, I'm not taking 1 rent cent below $32 million.
Well, last year after he beat Georgia and Alabama, the reactionist at Auburn gave him a 7-year contract at $49 million, 75% guaranteed. Just change their name to the reactionist. There may be no more reactionary program than Auburn, because when they lose to Alabama and have a bad season, there's and you always hear about it. A major Auburn donor is upset and he wants changes. Used to be the guy in Mobile. Can't remember his name. He ran that program.
He was a banker, wasn't he?
Yeah, he ran that program.
Yes.
He also ran him into the ground and
The
got him
de
on
facto
probation.
athletic director. I'm going into a meeting with the athletic director, and say, Gus, I thought we were meeting alone. He said, you brought a friend with you? Yes. This is my attorney here. So everything you say in front of him, say in front of me, you can say in front of him.
Bobby Louder was that guy's name?
That's him.
That's him.
Backup quarterback at Kentucky, Danny Clark, redshirt freshman, played in 2 games. He's leaving UK. To the phones we go once again here on Sports Talk. We are heading to Bill in Myrtle Beach. Hello, Bill. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Good.
I have a question about the game Saturday night. Seems like in the third quarter, South Carolina had the ball on the 3-yard line, 3rd down. They were lined up, not set in position, but they were lined up. The official was not over the ball, and Clemson had 2 substitutes. And they were running on the field, and South Carolina waited till they did the substitution, and then they called timeout. Why didn't they just snap the line up and snap the ball while they were making the substitution? I'll listen to you. I'm going to hang up. Thank you.
Yeah, they got down there at the inside the 5-yard line. They tried to run it in, and I'm trying to remember exactly what you're describing, but yeah, if you can catch, that's a free play.
Yeah,
if you can catch the defense running off the field, there were a couple of times that happened with Clemson, and South Carolina. I don't believe ever caught them with the extra men on the field.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the way that this works, South Carolina. I think I remember the one. It was on the far end zone from us, the left side end zone from where we are. That was the one where they the play before they had the disconcerting signals call.
Mm-hmm.
It was that drive, and I remember seeing the Clemson guys going off the field and thinking maybe South Carolina could catch them for too many men. I can't remember if South Carolina had subbed on that play, because when South Carolina does sub, you are allowed, as the defense, to get your guys in and out in a timely fashion.
Correct. Yeah, South Carolina, 2 trips inside the 5. One time they tried to run it in. If you're going to try and run it in, put a fullback in front of the running back. You can't.
Something more imaginative than what they did.
Well, I mean, you start your running back 6-7 yards back against that defensive front. You're asking your offensive lineman to do a whole lot against that group.
They did bring
Put a fullback in there.
They did do that with Asbury. They did bring.
They
Asbury.
did one time. Yeah. Yep. That's about the first time we've seen him all year outside of the spring game.
Outside of the long snapper role.
I still say you do something exotic, like take a penalty so you can move back so you have more space to throw.
True.
All right, to the coaches and more calls coming up. Dabo Sweeney getting ready for Pitt.
Talking about the opponent they will face, the 4th different opponent they'll face in the ACC championship game in their 4 trips they've gone there.
Pittsburgh is a tough, physical football team. That's just who they are. Offensively, they're going to be 21 personnel team, 11 personnel, some 20, and they come right at you. It's 3 runs to every pass, and you got to stop it. They got 2 backs right at that. One's over 1,000, the other one's right there at 1,000. Really good players, 30 and 22, great players, downhill, tough, hard-nosed guys. Have really done a nice job incorporating their receivers into the run game with how they block, number one, but then also the play action game. A lot of play action shots, bunch of formations, bunch of shifts, a lot of motioning. So it really challenges you from just lining up, making sure your gap's sound, being disciplined, and having your eyes on the right things and playing good, sound, fundamental, disciplined football on the defensive side. But they're going to challenge us, and we've got to make sure that we match the mindset that they bring to the field every time they play. That's just the style that they play with. Quarterback's a good player, moves around well in the pocket. He's made some big plays on the move where he's extended plays. So, I mean, they're an impressive group. They got at number 11, I think it's a transfer in there from maybe Indiana. He's really kind of come on for them. He's got his yards per catch is way up there. So, there's a style of play and a mindset that you have to have against these guys. Because, again, both sides are going to challenge. And the flip side, you look at their defense, I think they had 13 guys coming back this year that started 4 more games last year. Very experienced group, a bunch of guys that have played a lot of football for them. And, they went into Notre Dame, gave Notre Dame all they wanted. Tight ball game, did a great job in the trenches. They're incredibly well coached, very disciplined. Very seldom do you see them out of place. And they're not a sit back, play soft coverage type of deal. They're a force the issue defense. They're going to come after you. They're going to play. Everything is tight coverage. Everything is contested. Safeties are downhill. Linebackers are downhill. Lots of pressure. They do a great job with their pressure packages, getting in and out of their odd fronts and all the different pressures that can come off of that from the second and third level. But it's great. The defensive front is very experienced, very good players, twitchy guys on the end. Linebackers, second-level guys, really good players. They did lose 58. They lost him earlier in the year. He's a really good player.
That is a little bit of Dabo Sweeney from his chatter about Pittsburgh. 8 o'clock, ABC, Charlotte, Saturday night.
Be right back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We did get a tweet from our friend on Twitter. He calls himself Rampy Boy on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. I don't remember Muschamp conceding the loss and taking his foot off the gas and playing his backups, so why must Dabo take his foot off the gas? Love the show, guys. Keep up the good work. In response to our caller saying,
it's not about taking your foot off the gas when the game is still in doubt and you're trying to build a lead. I'm just saying in the last 5 or 6 minutes when you're up 2 touchdowns and you've got the football and South Carolina is just about out of timeouts. It's not totally out of timeouts. Yeah. You're taking a risk leaving your frontline guys in there. And I mean, go back and look at the last drive for Clemson. They're up 49-35 with 3:35 to go. Okay, South Carolina did get within 2 touchdowns, but Clemson's got it at their own 46. Let's see, at their own 46 after the kickoff. South Carolina tried the onside. Clemson recovered. So, you come out and you run the ball, timeout, South Carolina. You run the ball, timeout, South Carolina. So it's 3rd and 6 at midfield. You throw a pass for 27 yards. First down, out of bounds at the South Carolina 23. I think at that point the Gamecocks were out of timeouts.
yes.
So you could have just taken the knee, but you wanted to continue. Okay, that's fine. Your next play, 1st and 10 from the 23, you threw a pass, incomplete. You're risking your quarterback. Then you run it.
Who hadn't been touched all day, by the way.
True. But you know what? Freak things do happen, do they not?
They do.
4th and 3 at the 16, you throw a pass.
I have no problem with the way either coach managed that
to
game.
Renfro for 9 yards to the 7, first
Wide
down,
open.
and then ETN ran it in. So again, no, you can go ahead and do that and add another touchdown to win by 21. It does make it look better, and especially in this era of the committee, and they look at how much you beat a team by and how you dominate them, et cetera. So that helps. 21 looks better than 14. But you do run the risk with your front end guys in there, somebody getting hurt on a meaningless, what turned out to be a pretty much a meaningless touchdown drive because the Gamecocks were out of timeouts. You were not going to lose the game. The only thing that could happen for you was bad. Yeah, you did not get another touchdown. Did it really benefit you? What could have happened is a starting offensive lineman could have gone down with an injury. Somebody could have broken through and hit Lawrence from the backside and give him a concussion. He's out for the champion. Things happen, So I'm just saying you were taking that risk. All right, 800-956-7266. Let's get back to the phone lines because they are smoking once again. By the way, speaking of smoking, somebody was smoking some Iwo Jima down in front of us.
Some reefer. That was interesting.
Down at the Clemson game on Saturday night. Yeah, there was pot. There was truly. Sometimes you think you're smelling pot.
No, it was definitely pot.
I had to ask Will, is that pot? Because I really don't know what pot smells like.
Is that a fact?
Have you ever burned garbage?
Not only did he know that it was pot, he knew the brand.
I could not identify
and the grade, and he knew it was bought in Colorado.
I couldn't identify the strain.
In your country home in Atlanta, did you ever burn trash?
All the time.
In your backyard?
All the time.
You ever smell burning trash?
All the time.
Okay, then there you go.
Yeah.
There's
I'm
pot.
just saying that's
where are we going next? There, Brian?
As I told,
Lee in Wingate.
As I told an unnamed member of the Clemson media, they don't smoke it for the smell.
Lee, what's up, man?
Hey, love your show. First time caller. Been listening to you guys for years.
Thank you.
You brought a few minutes ago. You guys brought up the 2 classic textbook examples of Carl Torbush was the person who replaced Mac Brown.
That is correct, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In fact, his last stint, he served as head coach at East Tennessee State.
Mm-hmm.
And a classic example of somebody who was a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator and just didn't really cut the mustard as a head coach. And then you brought up the famous Bobby Lauder of Colonial Bank, Montgomery, Alabama, the Auburn booster, who not only got Auburn in trouble with NCAA, but he also got in trouble with Sachs because he was running the school. And he was the president. He had run-ins with Terry Bowden. And remember, he's the one that he and David Housel, the AD at the time, got on one of Bobby Lauder's jets from Colonial Bank out of Montgomery and went up to see Bobby Petrino at midnight one night and tried to get him to come to Auburn to replace Tommy Tuberville.
Right. And then Tuberville went out the next year and won, I think, 11 or 12 games.
Absolutely.
Did something
That's
great.
when they went 2004, they went 12-0. Finished, they got Oklahoma and Southern Cal played the Rose Bowl and then knocked Auburn to beat Virginia Tech in the Sugar Bowl. But Bobby Lowder is a textbook example of how a booster can ruin not only the athletic program, but darn near ruin the school because they were on probation with the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools.
Yeah.
Because of his interference.
Yeah.
Love your show. Just wanted to
Thank you.
those 2 points.
Thank you so much. You bring up some names from the past.
Yeah.
Stephen in Charleston, you're up next. You're on Sports Talk. Good evening. Hello, Steve.
It's because I've been
Hey.
listening all day with all of you guys, and I obviously I'm a Clemson fan, but the best thing I can say is I understand that it was bad that we didn't kneel the ball down, no problem, but there's a reason why you put the 4 up. You know what I'm talking about. You've been around high school football. What does your coach always say? Fourth quarter, and you always put your 4s up and you play your hardest, And so
championship rings are not placed on smooth fingers.
Nobody's suggesting. I don't think anybody's suggesting you go into the fourth quarter and immediately start taking a knee. Clemson was up 42-21 going into the fourth. They had the ball to start the fourth quarter. A game was still kind of in doubt. And Clemson responded. And you look in the fourth quarter.
Hey,
things have happened. They put Dixon. They put Dixon in at running back. So they were using their fourth team running back. But most everybody else were starters in there. But no, there was no reason to let up going into the fourth quarter. The only thing I'm saying is, and no, I don't blame Dabo for knocking it in at the end of the game. That's
I loved
fine.
I loved every
All
minute
I'm
of
saying
it.
is you were taking a chance of something bad happening when it wasn't necessary to have something bad happen. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, sir. And I totally understand that. But the guys are playing hard, and obviously they want to win because they've always heard about the 5 year. I mean, I know I've listened to it. I know you've said it. I mean, you got the 5 year period.
What has Dabo said all the time? He said this is a team game. I almost feel like this was him basically saying, look, your defense is not playing up to snuff right now. Your offense is going to have to, make sure that this game stays in a reasonable margin for us to be able to take things in a positive direction.
All right, thanks for your phone call. Let's hit another one before the top of the hour. We'll hear from Muschamp and more from Sweeney and recruiting coming up. Larry in Lancaster, welcome to Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. I'm not disagreeing with any point that anybody has made about the, finishing off with the touchdown. Was it really necessary or anything? But if you remember a few weeks ago when they played Florida, they busted through the line on 2 victory formations as hard as they could. So what message are you sending to teams that want to, go into victory formation if you're not going to concede and go wide open to kind of disrupt it?
Now, I think that was poor sportsmanship on South Carolina's part, to be honest with you. The game was lost. They were taking a knee. You don't go busting through the line trying to hit the quarterback or hit the center like that in that situation. I mean, if the other team is saying we're not going to try and not – Florida could have knocked it in for another touchdown, right? Where were they, about the 5-yard line?
Yep.
They were taking a knee. They were doing you a favor. That was bad sportsmanship. And I don't buy I don't think Muschamp has ever commented about that particular thing. If he were to say, well, we play to the echo of the whistle and we play hard to the end. No. If the other team is showing sportsmanship by saying we're not going to rub your nose in it, then you don't turn around and try and injure somebody or try and rough them up like that. That's a sucker punch to me when you do something like that.
It's not good. That's not a good look.
So, all right, thank you very much. We'll continue with your phone calls here after the top of the hour break. We've got recruiting. We're going to talk DJ, ukulele, and also Will Putnam and more. Can you spell ukulele yet, Will, Mr. Wordsmith? I don't think you can.
Not that name.
You'll be tested when we come back.
Ukulele.
I just want to know if Todd Ellis can say it.
You won't have to except
once a year.
Top of the hour.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We continue Talking Tuesday on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Give you a couple of recruiting notes, then back to your phone calls. 2020 quarterback DJ Ugalele, Bellflower, California, was at Clemson over the weekend, came in after his team lost. Yes, sir.
Missouri up there in number 24. How about that? Pretty good.
He lost in his playoff game to Mater Dei, 17-13. Father and an assistant coach spent the weekend with him. His father, known as Big Dave, very important that he got a chance to see Clemson. First time for Ugalele to see Clemson during a game setting. He had been in earlier in the year. And so he liked everything. I'm not going to bore you with all the compliments that he paid to Clemson and watching the offense and how much he enjoyed that, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously feels like Clemson is a place where he could fit in and enjoy himself, even though it's all the way across the country. So he had a really good time. He got a chance to talk to Trevor Lawrence and Chase Bryce, among others. Now, Alabama, Auburn, Oregon, LSU, Oklahoma are others he's considering. He's been to each except for Oklahoma. He's also been to Georgia, but the Bulldogs are not a factor. Right now, no other visits are planned from a date standpoint, but he'll try and visit again some of these schools. And he's not sure yet on a timeline, on a decision. Does not expect to make one this year. Obviously carrying it over into 2019. This year, 3,361 passing yards and 48 touchdowns with 5 interceptions. You want to hit the poll real quick?
Just giving you a little bit of the top 10 here. Number 10, LSU comes in here for the college football playoff rankings. Number 9 is Florida. Still didn't love the Florida. Sitting at 9-3. They
up 2 spots.
They love that victory over nothing LSU. UCF is 8. Michigan is 7. So Michigan drops all the way down from 4 to 7. That means that Ohio State is in the top 6. We'll see if they make the top 4. UCF is number 8, by the way.
All right, offensive lineman Will Putnam of Tampa. Final stages of making his decision. He's down to Clemson, Auburn, Florida State. Took officials to all 3. Was at Clemson for the Duke weekend. His coach, speaking to us, Plant High School coach Robert Wayner, said that he really enjoyed his visit to Clemson. Obviously, the things going on at Clemson right now are attractive to him and the way that program is rolling with a chance to play in future championship situations. So that's very big to him. He loves this kid as an offensive lineman. He says he's the most devastating offensive lineman that he's ever seen. He's also a state champion wrestler. He's an interior lineman, a center, a guard. He's not a tackle. So it's down to those 3. He's looking at, according to his coach, announcing and signing on December 20th. The signing day is the 19th. That's when the period begins. But his grandparents are going to be out of town. He wants them to be a part of the moment. They'll be returning that night. So they're looking at the 20th right now. No indication from the coach about any favorite there. Now, the schools are coming in for in-home visits. Florida State was in today, or was scheduled to be in today. Auburn is scheduled to be in tomorrow, and Clemson is expected to be in next week after the championship game. That's the recruiting for now. Check it out on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter. Use the hashtag #STRecruiting.
No changes in the top 3. Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3. Let's see what happens. Who's going to be number 4?
All right, let's hit a call while that is coming up.
It is Georgia. Georgia, followed by Oklahoma, followed by Ohio State.
So Georgia moves up to number 4. Well, again, is this an elimination game, Georgia, Alabama?
Should be.
So you're saying if Alabama loses?
No, they're still in.
I think Alabama might still be in, depending on the tenor of the game.
Oh, by the way, this reminds me to update you on South Carolina's bowl situation, talking with a source today with some knowledge about some of the conversations and what's happening. We're told that if enough SEC teams move up into the top tier of bowls, that could open a spot for South Carolina to get to the Gator. If not, most likely will be the Belk.
It's not going to make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, I've heard Liberty, but I'm told Liberty's not, in all likelihood, is not going to be in play for the Gamecocks for one reason or the other. So you're probably looking at either the Gator or the Belk from what we're told about South Carolina.
Hearing Missouri for Liberty possibly, just because of the proximity there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, why do you want South Carolina to go to 11 hours to Memphis, and you got Missouri right there, right?
Well, it seems that you got Florida, LSU 9 and 10. That possibility of the Gator is open. All
right, so you got Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State. Notre Dame gets to sit at home and rest. They don't have to worry about a thing. So they're in. Nobody's going to jump them.
No.
So they're in. Clemson, win and in. Here's the question. Why does Alabama get the benefit of the doubt from everybody? If they lose, you're still in. Should Clemson get the same benefit of the doubt if they were to be upset by Pittsburgh, a 26.5-point favorite?
I don't think they would because of the way their league is.
You think that would be it for Clemson?
Yeah,
I think they're done.
And it's more of what Alabama has done. They'll say recent history has nothing to do with it. Bull.
That's baloney. You know it. It's baloney. Come on.
So which one-loss team would get in if Clemson were to lose, you say, and fall out? If Oklahoma wins, do they move in? If Ohio State wins, do they move in? I mean, they both have bad losses on their schedule. It's about getting the 4 best teams. Are you still going to say if Clemson, let's just say they lose, are you still going to say Clemson is not one of the 4 best teams just based on one loss? That's what the committee's supposed to do, get the 4 best teams together.
It would be the worst loss of any of the championship games unless Ohio State loses to Northwestern.
Yeah.
If
amongst the top 6.
If you're a 26-point favorite in a football game and you lose it.
Bad look.
That would not look good.
Oklahoma beat Ohio State, right? In the regular season?
Not this year.
No, not this year.
Who beat Ohio State this year?
Purdue.
That's right. That's a bad loss.
It's a bad loss.
Very bad loss.
Oklahoma's only loss is to Texas.
Not such a bad loss, and they get a chance to avenge that.
Yes.
So I don't know. How could you say Clemson losing the Pitt is a worse loss than Ohio State losing to Purdue?
Because it happened later.
Well, I know that. But all right, quickly back to the phones. Let's go to Keith and Aiken. Just something I'm thinking about here. Is it fair to penalize Clemson because of the rest of the league?
None of this is really fair.
Being sucky. Keith and Aiken, welcome into Sports Talk.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good. You know, at the end of the day, we lost. The loss is a loss. But I tell you, you got to really tip your hat to Brian McClendon in the game that he called and really going up against what most would consider the best defensive front in the country and one of the best defensive coordinators. And for a major part of the night, they were confused. So that was a real positive. I know we lost defense. I don't know the answer for that, but it showed that Clemson is human. So it'll be interesting to see how the matchup goes down the road when they play someone that at least got enough people put on the field and play defense. But my question is, what are we losing offensively from a starter standpoint that we will lose this year? As far as keeping that offense intact, I understand defensively we got a lot of holes to fill.
Well,
you
lose. Thank you. You lose Deebo Samuel. This is assuming, of course, you never know about juniors who might leave early, but you lose in terms of your seniors who have used up eligibility. You lose Deebo Samuel. You lose Casey Crosby. You lose Dan August.
Jacob August.
Yeah, I've got Dan August on my depth chart. You lose Zach Bailey. You lose Dennis Daly. And I believe that's it.
On offense.
On offense.
You might lose TJ on defense if he goes early. Might.
Who's this?
TJ Brunson.
I don't think he's going early.
No, I don't think he's going.
I don't think he has any intention of going early. You could lose now. I mean,
you could use
Wanham is draft eligible.
Brian
Edwards is as well. I'm saying, if South Carolina can keep all these guys together, and this is where Clemson got to be good because those guys
stayed.
They saw a chance to do something great together and make memories and make history, and they put the NFL aside for an extra year. And a few years ago, it really benefited Clemson. Will the USC kids have the same mindset?
Stanley also
has a chance to come back then. Yeah.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It is Talking Tuesday. We've not yet heard from South Carolina head coach Will Muschamp, but we will rectify that presently.
Yes, indeed. In fact, let me update the Citadel High Point. Isn't Tubby Smith the coach at High Point now?
That is correct. Sir.
Yeah.
You are
His alma mater.
Citadel's up 31-17. Bulldogs looking to go 5-2 on the season.
Look at Barkley doing it.
Not Barkley.
Not Barkley.
Duggar.
Duggar.
They all have weird names. They all have weird names.
Wow.
Says a guy named Pelagic.
Hey, man, Pelagic is a very, very native name to the great, great country of the Ukraine. Don't you disparage
Oh, I thought
them.
you were going to say Australia.
Wait a minute. Aren't they at war with Russia?
They're always in war with Russia.
Yeah. Will Muschamp on Akron.
Got Akron here at Williams-Brice Stadium at noon. Last home game for 20 seniors, and certainly we need to send them out the right way and play the right way, and have our crowd out in full force and support these guys and a lot they've given to our program. Really appreciative of them. And Akron's 4-7, but they beat Northwestern early in the year. He's playing for the Big Ten championship, and certainly we need to have a great week of preparation. I got a lot of respect for Coach Bowden. Worked for him in 1995 and 1996 at Auburn. Gave me my first job, and certainly appreciative of him for that. And I'm very familiar with their staff and most of the guys they're at Akron, and they'll do a good job and play well and coach well. Cato Nelson, the quarterback's a dual threat guy, can do both, and they really use him in the RPOs and some of the run game and throws the ball well. Edwards is a really good back that is a big lower body. We're going to need to play the run better. Williams and Smith, two guys outside that really catch your eye as far as offensively, guys that make plays down the field for them. Bell's a really good linebacker for them. They're primarily a 4-down team. And then both safeties, George and Davis, are really good players, and they do a nice job pressuring the quarterback in the different pressure packages that they have. Injury-wise, J.C. Horn was in a boot today, but still may get him for Saturday. We'll see how that goes. And, in pregame Saturday night, just didn't feel good about pressing off and such. So still got an opportunity to get him back. Other than that, from the game, we should be good to go. A.J. Turner's going to rep at nickel for us this week. AJ's a guy that on special teams you really see instinctively him being able to make plays and field blocks, and is a good tackler and a good space player, and has the ability to be a good man coverage guy. So he's a good athlete. So we're going to give him some opportunity to play on the defensive side of the ball this week, and I'll open it up for any questions.
In terms of AJ, just when did you guys decide to move him over and start repping him there, and how has he kind of welcomed, I guess, the different position changes this week?
AJ's been kidding with me for 3 years about playing defense. And but a guy that, just showed special teams wise, we have some depth at the running back position right now. We got some guys we have confidence in. And it's nothing that he has not done at running back. It's just there's an opportunity possibly for him to move over and certainly help us this week, and we'll see how it goes moving forward. But he has a great attitude. We certainly came in and met with T-Rob for a lot of Monday, and to go through and just make sure, just learning some different concepts that we teach and being able to get him aligned and play. But AJ's extremely bright. He's fine. He'll learn it.
Well, how do you kind of master the art of moving on? What do you tell your players, coming off such an emotional game on Saturday night? You guys, you have another game to get ready for now.
I think that it's really the approach of your program. And it's not something you just come that week and say, this is what we do. That's why we talk about every week as a season. We mean it. We move forward. We spend the same amount of time as far as coaches in the office, whether we're playing Akron or whoever we're playing. I mean, that's part of our preparation. Our players understand that. Our players understand it's not about the logo and who we're playing. It's about us. It's about our preparation, how we prepare through the week and get ready for a ball game. And every game is a mindset game, and you got to have the right mindset, the right energy, the right focus, the right effort, toughness, and discipline on Saturday afternoon at noon. And so those are all things that we talk about all the time. It's, the opponent's nameless and faceless. It's our job to make a decision to be who we are on game day. And you got to do that by preparing the right way.
The opponent is nameless and faceless, but every week is a season.
Yes. But this opponent really is nameless and faceless, except for Terry Bowden, who's about twice the size he was when he was at Auburn.
Amen.
He was a small guy. Yes.
girth.
Yes, he was a small guy. Now he's a much larger guy.
He's big.
With a bad football team.
He's big. He's
Should be a game the
fast,
Gamecocks
strong.
can put. They can really make their offensive stats look big nationally. Can you just control yourself?
I'm sorry. It's his fault.
And, you know, already, I mean, the Gamecocks are in the top 3 in many of the offensive categories in the SEC. They can look at this year as the big turnaround year offensively.
Yeah, without one extra game for them to pad their stats. That's the one thing I've been hearing from Gamecock fans. Oh, well, we've had one less game where we can pad our stats. Yeah, okay.
To Rick and Sumter, welcome to Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
Yes, I was just calling in to comment on the running up the score by Dabo.
Yes.
Maybe he has learned his lesson a little bit, because if you remember 4 years ago, when Clemson played South Carolina, it was a 5-point game at the end. And then when they played North Carolina in the ACC championship game, they were an onside kick away from losing that. And then against Virginia Tech, you know, it was a really close game, go down to the wire. So maybe 21 points is his number now.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
I still think it's more. I still thank you. I still think it's more about who the opponent was at that particular time. And that was South Carolina. That was your rival. And maybe a little bit of window dressing to impress the committee that a 21-point win looks better than a 14-point win.
Yes.
Just my hunch there.
I have no problem. If Carolina fans have a problem with the way that the game was managed, guess what you can do? You can stop them.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah, you have a defense out there for a reason.
I was going to say, they have scholarships too.
Let's go to Tiger Bryan in Lancaster. Tiger Bryan, good evening. How are you?
Man, how y'all doing, man? Y'all doing a great job again.
Well, thank you.
I'll tell you what now. Hey, I'll give it to old Bentley now. He was on his game now. You know what I mean? He played his tail off, and we didn't, you know, we might have hit him a time or two, but, you know, but I'll tell you what, if Carolina had a little bit of defense, I know they had a bunch of injuries, but when Spurrier jumped ship on him, he left the damn cupboard bare. You know that.
Yeah, high and dry.
Yeah, but you know, I'll give them credit. You know, they caught us off guard on defense. We looked, you know, kind of a little foggy on the defense. You know, the fog rolled in there, and I reckon the boys couldn't see. But Dabo needs to take them to the eye doctor. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. Hey, go Tigers! I'm going to Pitt. I'm going to Charlotte. We're gonna take Pitt out.
Hey, that's not a long ride for you. That's a very easy road trip from Lancaster.
Oh yeah, I got me a VIP park and everything.
Yeah.
Don't let my talking fool you now.
You can get right on the Harley and get right there, no problem.
Yeah, no, we up there. We up there in the VIP booth, babe. I ain't going up there to freeze.
Actually, it's supposed to warm up some this weekend, isn't it? I know there's a chance of rain, but well, Brian, you do the weather for the Point. I heard you say it's going to get a little warmer as the week goes on. Chance of rain this weekend.
50-50 chance of rain in the evening on Saturday night, but 59.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I'm just, I mean, look, I'm looking at the play-by-play from Clemson, NC State. Clemson went up 31-7 on NC State early in the fourth quarter. Yes, and let's see here. NC State scored 31-7. Clemson came out at the beginning of the fourth quarter with Lawrence at quarterback. Went down and scored. I got a field goal, 34-7. Yeah, and then he pulled. Then he was pulled, and Bryce came in and finished the game. And, you know, I mean, of course, that game was a little bit more in hand, maybe, because Clemson's defense wasn't getting, toasted like they were by South Carolina.
It was part of the reason why. It's because they knew that their defense, they needed to keep playing.
They were concerned.
Yes.
They were concerned.
They were rightfully concerned.
The only thing I'm saying is, you know, something bad could have happened on that last drive with your starters in there.
Something bad can happen in practice, like what happened with Justin Minaya on the basketball team.
Well, but you don't let your quarterback get hit in practice. He's still going to get hit in a game if you leave him out there to throw passes when you're up by 2 touchdowns.
Something bad could happen in the ACC championship game when the game went down.
The other team doesn't have any timeouts.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, I certainly understand why he knocked it in. 800-956-7266. More from Sweeney and Muschamp coming up, and more of your phone calls. Stay with us here on Sports Talk.
It is Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network as we continue here on a Talking Tuesday. Heard from Will Muschamp a little bit about Akron, heard a little bit from Dabo Sweeney earlier. And of course, I think we all were wondering just exactly how or if head coach Dabo Sweeney would address or clarify the comments he made from Sunday in his ACC teleconference, where he blasted fans who were dissatisfied with the margin of victory of Clemson's 21 points over South Carolina.
Well, now we actually only know of one fan That's the one that David Hood cited in his story. He said he heard one fan say,
We had a couple people yesterday who were angry about the comments.
yeah, they were angry about the comments, but that's
that
different than being angry about the result, which started the comments. We've got one person out of the 81,327 who were there. I'm making up that number, but it's about that, who was heard by David Hood, who has supersonic hearing.
According to people on our Twitter, there are a lot of Clemson fans who were discouraged by
one person set Dabo off. But go ahead.
Point being, Dabo doubled down on those comments, maybe saying them in a bit of a softer tone, but still saying the same message, so to speak.
Our fans are amazing. 98%. 98%. There's always a small percentage in anything that are just completely out of touch with reality. So, the big thing for me is I don't want – fans can have whatever mindset they want to have. But I don't want anything to creep into a culture of our program, because our players, they get stuff pushed at them in social media, and I don't want our players to ever walk off a field ever with a win and the so-called feel like a loss. Wow, how sad is that? The objective is to win the game. And, I just, like I said, the fun's in the winning. And if it ain't fun to win, well, man, that's a sad state of affairs. And there's places like that. There's people like that. I'm miserable when we lose. I ain't going to be miserable when we win. I hate to lose. I hate to lose. Work too hard. But I do understand that sometimes losing's a part of your success. It's a part of your growth. But when you find a way to get it done, I don't care if you win 70. What was the score of the A&M game of the night? 72-70 or something like that? What was it? 74? I guarantee you them A&M, they were jacked up to win. And that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of things they got to do better, lots of things to fix, lots of things, but you won the game. You won the game. I know what losing feels like. I got a very clear picture of that. It's much better to win. And I've never coached a perfect game. I've never had a team play a perfect game. It doesn't matter. We can win by 40 points. There's always something to coach. There's always something to do better. Always something to improve. And that's the challenge. That's the great. But I don't want to ever be a part of anything where the players don't appreciate winning, and all of a sudden your culture is that winning ain't enough. Now you got to win by a certain amount of points and all this type of stuff. I just want to win by 1 point. If you win by more than 1 point and you win by 60 points, you're just 1-0. And the next week, if you win by 70 and you win by 3, you're just 2-0. A win is a win. And I've just always felt that way, and I've always been passionate about that. And that's what Coach taught me. Coach Stallings taught me that. And the fun's in the winning, man. And we celebrate. That's why I don't want to ever come in a locker room and have players over there pouting. Maybe, hey, we won the game. We'll worry about playing better tomorrow. We won the game. Let's celebrate. And we do, man. I love that, man. And seeing those guys in that locker room the other night and dancing and celebrating, that's what it's all about. And, but then to hear some chit chat from some of the players and things that, gets pushed at them, like winning ain't enough. That's sad. And I think that mindset needs to be checked. And that's the point I'm making. And, nobody's going to ever steal my joy. Joy comes from within. And I'm never, ever, 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 ever not going to have fun winning. And if it ever gets to where it's not fun to win, then you better do something else.
And if you think that was long, Preacher Dabo went on for about 5 more minutes talking more about where joy comes from and all that and the philosophies of life and how he doesn't know words that are longer than 3 syllables. But, yeah, that was basically the tenor of everything that was said in that particular situation. So, in short, he doesn't regret his comments from Sunday. I still think he's justified. I know you don't like that he went after the fans, but guess what? All their success is attributed to him. And if you don't like it, if you're a Clemson fan, then go root for somebody else. Period.
All right, 800-956-7266. Back to the phone calls. Hank in Columbia is up next here on Sports Talk. Hey, Hank, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Corn. Corn, first on the polls, you said that did LSU come in at 10?
10 and Florida was 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that works well for us because I can't see them falling any farther if they don't play. Which means unless crazy things happen, they should both be in the New Year's Six. So I think that helps Carolina's bowl chance.
Yeah, Florida and LSU should both be in the New Year's Six if nothing else changes drastically.
Yeah.
So you're talking.
Georgia
So you're
and
talking
Alabama.
really. There's 11 eligible SEC teams.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking top tier bowl games for Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU.
Yeah.
And now so you're, which could mean South Carolina getting into the Gator.
Could.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard that the Gator really wants South Carolina. I heard that the Gator really was hoping that those teams get in there.
I hate to say it, but I mean, how sad is the bowl situation when a 7-win team goes to the Gator?
That's just how much the Gator has
But
fallen
last
from grace.
year, it's happened. It's happened on. If you look at the last couple of years, it's happened. So,
when's the last time a 7-win team went to the Gator? Has a 7-win team gone to the Gator?
A couple of years ago, I think one of the lower teams, the team that was the underdog a couple of years ago, 75, I believe. But as far as the end of the game, I was at the game.
Mississippi State was a 7-win team going into that game last year.
Okay.
Or 8-win team going into that game last year. Sorry.
Oh, they were an 8-win team.
Yeah,
well, that's
8.
different. 8's more than 7.
Kentucky was an 7-win team going into 2016. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, getting to the game from Saturday, as always talk about the last play, I was at the game, and I don't think that people at the game too much cared about him taking that last play. I think it's something that kind of was a thought process, maybe some minutes after when you saw them on TV that he was telling them to speed up. But if you're a Carolina fan, which I am, you take that. You just go ahead and take it. It was his prerogative to do it. You file that away. You file the curtain call away. And when you have that day, then you just have a decision to make. I think what happened back with Spurrier was here. Remember, we got the kind of jump with Spurrier. So you remember in one of those games with those 5-0 areas when we were up there, and I think that night we beat them something like 29-7 or something like that. Remember when Spurrier just kind of pulled out Sean and all them in the second half? And y'all asked why he didn't play him, and he said, well, they weren't going to score anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the Carolina fans remembered that, and they wanted Spurrier to do something because that was up in Clemson, but he didn't. And so, each coach has to make those decisions, and I don't begrudge him. Now, the other thing I begrudge about the whole deal is to come out, I handed it off, so that's how it happened. He did it because they were embarrassed about how the defense was getting tricked.
That's basically it. And here's the thing. He's also embarrassed about, Carolina fans coming up to him and holding up the 5-bomb signal and all that. You don't think that wasn't playing in his mind during the game on Saturday? You know what? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the stuff that happens in rivalries. If you are mad about the fact that Clemson scored the last touchdown, you're the same fan who would have walked up to Dabo and put your 5 fingers up and taken a picture with him. It's this sanctimonious, full of baloney garbage that people don't see the other side of. Carolina fans, if the shoe was on the other foot, you would have wanted to drive the knife in Clemson's throat just like they did to you.
Actually, they would have sent their child up to Dabo for a real touchy-feely picture.
Yeah.
Then get the kid to put the 5-bomb up. That's what they would have done.
They'd take a knee and do it.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Programming note for y'all. Thursday, we will do our usual coach and the quarterback get-together, but we will do so from one of the locations of the coach and or the quarterback, and that is Coach Chuck Reedy's Comeback Shack in Charleston, Goose Creek area. Very, very much looking forward to seeing Chuck's new digs. Of course, we'll do all our other staples as well this week, which include M&M boys tomorrow, coaching the quarterback Thursday, opposition research, looking at both Akron and Pittsburgh on Friday, and of course, all the usual tomfoolery that we have with you on the phones at 800-956-7266.
And let's go to Will Muschamp before we get back to the phone calls. He had his press conference today, of course. We heard from him earlier. Talked about Akron. What about his feelings on his quarterback, Jake Bentley, being snubbed by the SEC? Went with Tua Tagovailoa and with Kyle Shermer of Vanderbilt for the co-SEC Offensive Players of the Week, but not his own quarterback. His thoughts, please?
I'm going to try and be politically correct. I'm not very good at that. You know, we're not big into individual awards here. It's not who we are. It's about the team. And Jake will be the first one to tell you that. And Jake played well because of how he prepares, how he watches film, how he practices. But Jake played well because our offensive line played well, because they prepared the right way. And I told our team, you know, offensively, we're playing really good football. And I think a lot of it goes back to our preparation and how we practice. And our offensive line is straining at practice. I'd say the same thing for the other position groups offensively. You know, the tight ends, the receivers, the running backs. I mean, those guys are all competing and practicing the right way, and that's a credit to them. And certainly, but I do think it's important when a young man does some special things to get recognized for it. And you know, he's the first quarterback in Southeastern Conference history to throw for that many yards against a top 5 team and 5 touchdowns in the history of the league. Never been done before. That's pretty impressive, in my opinion. But I have learned – I've been in this league a long time, so I have learned – you know, we have a saying that it just means more. It just means more sometimes depending on what your logo is. So call it like it is. Next question.
You'll probably be asked.
Hey, I'm going to defend our kids. Make sure we all understand that. I work for South Carolina.
Well, following up with Jake, his teammates while they were in here, some of them said that they could sense during the week or in pregame that it was going to be a special night for Jake. Did you see anything during the week or in pregame that maybe clued you in that this was going to be one of those nights for Jake?
No, I think that, you know, again, things kind of came together and, you know, we made some plays. And, you know, again, like I said before, he had a lot of people play well around him. But he certainly pulled the trigger and did some nice things. I don't know that there was anything through the week. I see the guy. I see how he prepares every week, you know, and that's something that's extremely impressive to me of how he goes about his business and his preparation and how he practices and his practice habits, you know, along with some other guys have really rubbed off on our team.
Will, some of the guys in here said today that, you know, the message was that this week in practice is, you know, this is a championship week. A lot of teams are practicing for championship games. Let's practice like it's a championship and we're going to point towards next year. Is that the message you're sending to these
Well,
guys?
I talked to the team this morning. I said, it's interesting how things work sometimes. The good Lord works in mysterious ways. You know, next year we've got 2 open dates. Well, we practiced that this year because of the hurricane. We had an open date and then played Vanderbilt and then had our normal open date that was already scheduled. Next year we've got 5 games and then we have an open date and we play Georgia and then we play 6 and have an open date and play Clemson. So we've been able to bend through that process now. So we understand that. And the guys will tell you, I like to be able to practice things and regardless whether it's situational football. But, you know, our goal is to go to Atlanta and you go to Atlanta, you'll be practicing this time next year. And we need to get used to practicing this week.
It's a nice dream.
No, I think that's what Muschamp is trying to change, the thinking, the culture, and you have to think that way. Why not?
I applaud him with that.
Why not? Why not stick your nose out there and say, hey, we want to be practicing every week here in late November going into December for the SEC championship game. There's nothing wrong with putting your feet on the ground and reaching for the stars.
Nothing like positive self-talk.
Well, that's the thing that Dabo did when he was losing those 5 games in South Carolina. He was telling his team, we're building something here and we're going to win. Look what happened.
All right, to the phones we go once again, and we head next to Mark in Aiken. Mark, good evening. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I've said this once, and I'll say it again regarding the new playoff rankings I saw tonight. I might be the only proponent in the world for it, but I would be the biggest, and that would be a conference winners only playoff. And I feel you and I talked about this before, but I'll say this to say one, the conference games they've got to mean something, and they've got to mean the same thing for every team that plays them. If you're good enough to play in the conference game and you win it, regardless of who that is, you should be in the playoff to say, well, win, lose, or draw, Alabama's in regardless. Okay, well, another team has been good, but they have to win theirs to get in. I mean, to say 4 best teams, that's all subjective. That's all subjective. It's all opinion. I want the opinion completely gone.
Yeah.
I mean, if
don't you remember some of the big fights me and K-Mac used to have over this thing? He said when they came up with this concept of the playoff, don't you remember, Pro? You were the referee.
It was
and K-Mac was, so this is going to end all the controversy. We're going to have this is going to fix everything. There's not going to be any controversy anymore.
I know,
and
K-Mac,
I said
that's a pretty dumb statement.
And what is?
That it's going to end the controversy. College football thrives on the controversy.
No, but
controversy is their cocaine.
That's what the proponents of a playoff system have said from day one.
No.
This is what they said. They said this will end the controversy. It'll make sure the top 4 teams in the country are in to play one another, and there'll be no questions asked. And of course, you always had the question us, what about number 5 who doesn't get in? But what they've done, of course, is in principle.
Bill, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still talking. In principle, I'm here and I'm talking. In principle, what they drew up on paper was fine, but like everything in college athletics, it gets abused. And because you got people who want to make sure Alabama is still in there, even with a loss in the championship game, or even with a loss and they're not in the championship game, they're going to get in the playoffs. Same thing now with Notre Dame. They're going to get in the playoffs. They don't even have to play in a championship game. I'm with you. I mean, I think it should be a level playing field for all the teams that get into the postseason. If you're going to get into the playoffs, then you should have to win your conference championship. And if you have to go through the process of playing a championship game. Now, how do you accommodate Notre Dame like this?
I don't like the conference championship games as a rule. I just don't, because I don't like adding that extra data point. I think if you go through a conference season and you get through that conference season the way you should go in, you should not necessarily be punished for playing in a conference championship game. And the other part of this too, from the standpoint of whether or not it would get rid of the controversy, I don't think anybody said it was going to get rid of the controversy. They said it was going to add subjectivity that the numbers of the BCS could not provide, other than the polls that they had from the AP and the Harris and whenever they did it with the coaches poll.
Guess what?
That's all that was. It never said anything about going rid of the controversy, because guess what? College football thrives on controversy.
Guess what? If they expand it to 8 teams, LSU and Florida be crying right now because they're 9 and 10.
Quickly, Sonny in Camden.
Or Conway.
Hello, Sonny in Conway. Welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey, fellas. First time caller. I just wanted to reach out, and I heard you talk the discussion about Dabo and the problems he was having with some of the Clemson fans. But
Quickly.
I touched briefly with Alan Smothers this morning on this same subject. We had Carolina fans calling for Muschamp's head, just because they didn't think that defensively we played to our best ability. And I don't know if these are just fair weather fans. They don't understand the process of building a program with a new coach in the 3rd year, 2 full recruiting classes. But it's a pain in the rear end to hear some of our fans ridicule him and the rest of the coaching staff. And I just contribute that to them being just fans and not students of the game.
People who are calling for Muschamp's head are foolish.
Who would do that?
Who would call for Muschamp's head?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Somebody is ignorant.
People who are calling for Muschamp's head are foolish and don't deserve the brain that's in their head.
Wow.
I agree.
I'll take it.
That'll do it. Thank you so much. Keep the calls rolling tomorrow night. We'll see you then. Have a great night.